Sounded good.
Sounded good. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our annual 5th grade to 6th grade transition meeting for Springton Lake Middle School. My name is Dr. Bob Salladino. I am the proud principal of our school, and we are so excited that you are here with us tonight to join us for the first step of the transition for your child from elementary school to here at Springton Lake as a middle school student for next school year. We've got a team of folks that are here from our middle school staff that are going to be part of this evening's presentation. I'm going to start off and allow each one of them to introduce themselves, and then we will start in with our presentation. I will let you know from the outset that we are recording tonight's presentation, and we will be sharing a recording with everyone by the end of the week. That way, if you were not able to attend, you'll have it. And also, if you have something that you'd like to refer back to as a question, you can do so. All right, so we are going to go around and allow each person to introduce themselves. We're going to start off with our assistant principals.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Britton. I am one of the assistant principals here at Springton Lake. I am finishing my 6th school year as assistant principal. So when your children start in the fall, I'll be starting my 7th school year. So I'm looking forward to seeing your children next school year and as we continue through the transition for the 2021-2022 school year.
Hi, my name is Devin Layton. I am the other assistant principal. I believe this is my 3rd year here at Springton Lake. We have an amazing staff and we have great students, so welcome.
Hello, my name is Ken Curran. One of the school psychologists for the school district, and this is my 19th year at Springton Lake Middle School, and thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Hi, I'm Kristen Hartner. I'm the school nurse here at Springton Lake Middle School. This is my 7th year here, and I'm looking forward to meeting your students next year.
Good evening. I'm Tiffany Orrin. I'm one of the supervisors of special education, and I'm the supervisor of transition. This is my 18th year with the district, and I look forward to working with each of you.
All right, so we really appreciate, again, you joining us for tonight. We're sorry that we are not able to meet in person this evening and to be able to have that personal interaction, but we know right now that this is probably the best and most appropriate way to have this meeting. We do hope in the future to be able to connect with you in person and to be able to greet you and welcome you to our school. Now, before we begin with our PowerPoint presentation, I want to just offer a brief disclaimer about tonight's presentation. This will probably be the only time this evening you hear me say the phrase COVID-19. And the reason I'm saying that is that tonight's presentation is a COVID-19 free presentation. And so we are going to talk about what the transition to Springton Lake looks like in a typical school year. We're going to talk about all of the things that your child can expect to experience and what being a middle schooler is like. And though this particular school year has been anything but typical, we definitely hope that we are moving in the right direction with kids coming back to 4 days of in-person instruction. Our sports teams have just gotten up and running for the spring season. So we do hope that we are moving in the direction of a more typical school year. And so we're not going to be talking tonight about any of the procedures that we currently have in place due to COVID-19. Once we see what we're looking at in terms of next year, we'll be communicating those kinds of things to all families prior to the start of the school year. And again, right now, we're just very optimistic that we're heading in a good direction and that a return to familiar is on the not too distant horizon. So that's our little disclaimer for tonight. You will have an opportunity. You can submit questions. We will be monitoring those questions, but we will not be answering any of them until we get to the end of the presentation. So you can submit them, and we will circle back around to those questions near the end, and we'll answer as many as we can, looking for common themes and things that have come up during the presentation. All right, I think we are ready for to project our PowerPoint. All right. So we can click to the third slide, please. All right, so we are so proud of our middle school, and we know that middle schools offer a unique experience for kids. Your fifth grader is probably at the point now where they are ready for a change. They are ready for this next step in their educational journey. And we really believe that the program that we have in place here at Springton Lake really honors where our kids are as learners as they make this transition as young adolescents. And so we have teachers here that really know what makes our young adolescents tick, what's interesting to them, the strategies that will get them engaged, and they're able to tailor what they do to the kids who are in our classrooms. Our curriculum gives kids an opportunity to try out things, to see how different subject areas are connected, and how important the things that they're learning are to the real world and to their future. We really strive to create a welcoming, inclusive, respectful environment here where kids really feel honored, they feel that their dignity is honored, and they feel like they're a part of our Spartan community. We do a whole lot that focuses on the social and emotional components. We have some elements that we'll talk about tonight, how we do that and how we support that here. And so the middle school experience really is tapping into those three aspects, the academic and cognitive development of our kids, the social changes, as well as the emotional changes. And Dr. Curran is going to talk a little bit next about what that looks like, particularly for those of you who may be going through this transition and sending your first child off to us and your first experience in middle school. So Dr. Curran, let's talk a little bit about what it means to be the parent of a middle schooler.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction. And of course, that's one of my favorite pictures before you now, because it pretty much tells the story of middle school, the physical changes that occur in middle school. And it's so nice to have the students back in the building to see some of these changes. My office happens to be in the 8th grade hallway. So in the fall of 8th grade, sometimes or oftentimes it does look like this picture where you see boys who are fairly small in relation to girls, but by the end of the year, also known as the spring, and I try to observe this today outside of my office, the boys have, typically caught up to the girls, if not far surpassed them in terms of height. So that picture certainly exemplifies the physical changes that occur with middle school. Can you advance the slide, please? Thank you. And by the way, I can commiserate with everyone on teams here tonight, because I do have a daughter who is in 8th grade. So we went through this process a couple of years ago with her, and then I have a daughter who is currently in 5th grade, so we're about to go through the process with her. I personally have found, not just as an employee for Rose Tree Media School District, but as a parent and psychologist, that maybe the best way to handle this process is to normalize it as much as possible. It's part of life. All of us on this call here went through it ourselves. It's not easy, but if you know what to expect and you're fair and patient with your child, I think it will go well. And that's why we're here tonight. So in terms of the social changes, that this is both exciting but a little bit sad, I'll admit, as a parent. So kids in early adolescence, that they become far more interested in their peers than they do adults, particularly their parents. So my personal example is for many years, I also worked at Media Elementary School. And as I would walk the halls through media, the kids would all come up to me. I had so many hellos and friends, and the kids were so interested in me as an adult, which still happens a little bit in 6th grade. But by 8th grade, the kids, if you address them in the hallway, you might get a very small return. But they're certainly not going to give you a high five or look for more engagement from that than that. Again, just as an adult, you become a little bit less cool, unfortunately, as kids go through early adolescence. But again, very importantly, you'll see your son or daughter are going to want to spend more time with friends than typically adults. The other thing that certainly happens in middle school is cliques start to form, particularly for girls. But also realize that girls tend to form smaller groups of friends in comparison to boys, and boys tend to socialize around activities or sports. That just tends to be the way that they interact. An interesting thing for me to observe over time at working in a middle school is it's definitely a time for which humans are searching for identity. But yet at the same time, there's a lot of conformity that occurs in middle school. If you were to go into our cafeteria, not just this year with COVID, but any year, you would notice that many or most of the kids dress very similarly. There's a lot of conformity to their own local social norms. Also, as part of early adolescence, you'll start to see that your son or daughter might challenge your authority a little bit more. They're certainly learning more. They certainly feel pretty independent, and they might not be afraid to challenge your authority from time to time. In terms of the physical changes, again, I think that picture best exemplifies boys tend to hit puberty more like 10 to 14 or 15 years old. Girls can be as early as 8, and puberty tends to extend 8 to 13 years old. Another big physical change, and I'm certainly seeing this with my own daughter, the 8th grade daughter, is a change in their sleep patterns, definitely hormonally. Their circadian rhythms or their body clocks change a little bit. They start to stay up a little bit later each night, and then of course then they're going to want to sleep a little bit later on into the morning. So that's another big physical change. Also, in terms of cognitive changes, the frontal lobe of the brain is still developing in early adolescence and actually right through your 20s. So whereas adults, we have, hopefully all of us have superior executive functioning skills where we have great time management, we can prioritize things really well. Early adolescence, those skills are still developing. So sometimes parents can be a little bit impatient when kids aren't super organized or aren't great with time management or work completion. But again, that's very typical or common in early adolescence. The kids are still developing those skills. Kim, do you mind moving the slide forward one more? Thank you. And very importantly, and again, I've learned this lesson myself just as being a parent, I think listening is really important for kids who are in early adolescence. Again, they might not seek you out as often as they used to, but they still seek you out at times. So you have to lend an ear when they're ready to talk. I always say to parents, typically the best conversations, maybe unfortunately, that I have with my kids are when I'm driving, so that we're not necessarily face to face. They're in the back seat. But that seems to be the time where they're willing to disclose lots of information that is helpful and interesting to me. So there's that. But again, being an active listener is so important. Again, I definitely would encourage you to have your student participate in as many activities that are being offered at Springton Lake or in the community as possible. Fingers crossed that we'll be offering our normal allotment for next year. I think two other big issues just to be prepared are technology in phones. I think that most 6th graders these days have phones. At least in my house, we're very The consequences are tied to the phone. So if my child isn't doing well in school, or if they're not being the best citizen around the house, she might lose that phone, and it's the ultimate consequence for her. Definitely her behavior definitely shapes right up once the phone is in jeopardy. So again, for me, the phone's a privilege, and you just have to be really careful with social media. And then I would say the last important thing for me tonight would be the importance of natural consequences. Again, part of being an adolescent is you do great things, but you also make mistakes. So when your child makes mistakes, of course, you be there for them, but you also make sure that there are natural consequences for when they might not be doing the right thing in terms of school or home or anything else. But again, most importantly, be an active listener and do your best to get your child involved in any of the great activities that are available at Springton Lake. So I appreciate your time tonight.
All right, next slide, please.
Okay, now we're going to get into talking a little bit about what to expect as your child transitions to middle school, as far as their classes and their daily schedule. And if this is your first child moving to middle school, teaming. So just explaining a little bit what teaming means. So at the middle school in 6th grade, we have 3 teams per grade. And the students, when they transition into Springton Lake, they are assigned to a team, which means they have the same science and social studies teacher. Most of the students will have the same math and language arts teacher. If they have an IEP or required a specialized language arts or math, they might have there would be a different 6th grade teacher. But in general, they are having the same teachers and they rotate together. And what that allows for is a more personalized environment. It allows for if, let's say, your son or daughter or child has a problem with homework and they came into school and the teachers notice a pattern that they haven't been doing their homework. The team is meeting every day and they're noticing this, and they can be in communication with parents. If it's something that maybe is bothering the child, we can make sure that we're setting them up with their school counselor or checking in with them. So it really is like a family to have a team. The names of the 3 teams are Blazers, Explorers, or Voyagers. And the students are heterogeneously grouped as they come into the middle school. So we will be, it will be random. They will not be necessarily with everyone from their elementary school. We do like to mix it up to make sure that students are getting the opportunity to see some old friends, but also meeting new students as well. And students do have lunch together. Special area classes are not teamed. So even if you aren't on the same team as someone, you do get the opportunity to interact with other 6th grade students throughout the day. Also on the team will engage in team building activities. Like I had said before, not to repeat myself, but it really does become a family. And the students, instead of just, although you do now have 9 periods a day, you are, working through the same group of teachers, and the classes themselves on a team are located within like a pod. So it is a small transition from class to class when you're moving through your science, social studies, math, and language arts. You're not traveling all across the building. You are rotating within a very small area. So that's just a little bit about teaming. And as the summer moves through, we've been working with the elementary school throughout the summer. We'll be working on the schedules and teaming. And in August, the students do find out which team they're on, which is always an exciting event that we will get to later.
All right. Next slide.
The academic program. So the school day does start at 7:55 and it will end at 3 o'clock next year. So this is earlier than the students are used to at the elementary school. It is a 9-period day. The classes are each 46 minutes. Lunch is 35 minutes. That includes a core extension period, which is a time of the day that we will talk about later in the presentation, where students can get enrichment, additional support. It's a nice time for them to work with their teachers for extra help. So that is included in the day after lunch for 6th grade students. And the students, as I have mentioned before, our classes are not leveled except for math. All of our students are heterogeneously grouped.
Just to go back 1 second, Mrs. Britton was talking about the teaming. An interesting fact that you may be wanting to know is our enrollment next year here at Springton Lake will probably be about 935 students, roughly 300 or so in each grade level. And so that teaming concept really helps to make that transition when the kids are coming from an elementary school that's likely to be a lot smaller, coming to this larger environment that really supports that transition. And as Mrs. Britton said, it really becomes a family within our larger school environment. So just something to kind of keep in mind. We are, a larger school than what the kids are coming from. So next up, in the next couple of slides, we're going to talk about a little bit about what the kids can expect to learn in our core subject areas, and we're going to give you kind of an overview of each of the course areas, and then you'll see how it all fits together in terms of a sample student schedule in a few slides. So our math program here at Springton Lake is aligned with the Pennsylvania standards in mathematics, and it really is a continuation of the math program that the kids are enrolled in the elementary school. So for our students who are currently in the AMP program here in one of our elementary schools, they would matriculate to that next course in the sequence here at Springton Lake, which is an accelerated pre-algebra class. Kids that are in the grade level 5th grade math class would transition to the grade level 6th grade math class. There are opportunities down the line for kids that maybe are blossoming in math and have really kind of come into their own to advanced levels moving forward. But in 6th grade, it really is a natural transition from the course that they're in now to the next course in the sequence. And we do provide a wide range of math offerings during the middle school experience, everything from that pre-algebra grade level experience. We teach Algebra 1, we teach geometry, and we even currently have some students that are enrolled in an Algebra 2 course. All of those things, higher level math classes that typically you might see offered at the high school level. And so it really is tailored to individual student needs, and kids have lots of opportunities with math offerings here at Springton Lake. All right, next. One of the big changes that the kids will experience is that for science and social studies, these become core area classes that meet every day. I know right now in the elementary school, these are courses that probably meet on some kind of a rotation. It's not a consistent daily focus, but here at the middle school, these are major core area classes that the kids will take all year long. In science, our focus is on life sciences and ecology. A lot of hands-on lab activities. The classes are taught in a science lab classroom, and so lots of opportunities for kids to explore and investigate and really get immersed in science. In social studies, it really is a world culture course where kids are learning about the geography, the history, the culture, religions from around the world, and they're studying those 4 key areas: Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. As we progress through the social studies curriculum at the higher grade levels, there is a focus on United States history as well as some contemporary history. But this is a great course that the kids love. Lots of opportunities to explore things that are very brand new and of interest to them. All right, next slide.
Language arts. Our language arts curriculum is the reading writing workshop, which is completely aligned to our PA core standards. It is completely heterogeneously grouped, and we are able to differentiate through leveled independent reading. You will receive information about the summer reading assignment coming up. And, we have been doing writing workshop since it predates me, since before I was here. As I said, this is my 6th year, and we have been heterogeneously grouping for the last, I think this will be our 4th year, and it has worked out really well. In 6th grade, the teachers really take an approach where they get to know the students, the students as learners, also as readers, and really tap into their interest to match them up with texts that are, pieces that they can become passionate about, and really pick genres that they will be able to explore on their own, and also really, put students on paths for individual growth in both reading and writing. Our 6th grade team, you will find, of teachers, they are excellent. The world language. So world language in 6th grade, students will either have exploratory world language, or they may have a reading course. That is something that was discussed from 5th grade, from 5th to 6th. So if your child was being recommended for reading over a world language, we would be communicating that with families. We will be sending verifications home in early June. So if students take world language in 6th grade, it is exploratory, which means it's just, it's not necessarily the first year of a language. It's really getting to understand the language, the culture, learning some basic vocabulary, and they are exposed to a half of a year of Spanish and then a half of a year of French. And the philosophy behind this is that students can get to choose themselves in 7th or 8th grade if they would like to move on in either of those languages. It does meet daily, so for that half a year, you would have that world language every day. And it really is looking, as I said, at the culture and really getting students excited about learning a new language so that they can make that choice. There are students that in 6th grade do require a little bit more reading, and they are able to make that transition in 7th grade to a world language. It's just because it is just exploratory in 6th grade, that opportunity for students, if they are ready in 7th and or 8th grade, is still there. Special area classes. So this sometimes sounds more confusing when I try to explain it, and we will get to a sample schedule later in the presentation. So just to explain a little bit what this looks like. So there are, we've talked about the 5 periods of the day. So there's math, there's language arts, there's science, there's social studies, there is world language or reading. That's 5. And then we have our lunch period that makes 6, although that's only 35 minutes long. That's a little shorter than the classes. And I briefly touched on core extension, which I'll touch on a little bit later. That makes 7. So as we said early in the presentation, there are 9 periods. So that leaves 2 periods open, and they are for special area classes. We are very lucky here that the students have a wide variety of special area classes that they will rotate throughout their 3 years here at Springton Lake. In 6th grade, they will have physical education all year, every other day. In addition to that, they will have a music class all year, every other day. And the music class will be either band, chorus, orchestra, or music lab. And that is something that, that's one thing that during the presentation, I am going to send out another link for the survey that Dr. Salladino sent out a couple weeks ago for students to pick their music course for next year. But all students will have PE and music all year long. Both every other day, and the music class is of their choosing. If they were in band or orchestra, we really encourage students to continue playing their instrument at Springton Lake. I did see a question earlier on that was asking about if a student, if a student has an IEP and is taking an orchestra or a band course, the teachers will absolutely accommodate and work with students. We really highly encourage students to continue with their musical instrument. If students like to sing, the chorus is an option, but if, music lab is also a class where students get to learn about a wide variety of music and, work through different genres and also work through technology with software like GarageBand, which is really breaking apart different kinds of music. So there are options for students. So that is, that would be, if let's say that's second period of the day, which is one of our special area classes. And, I've just talked about they would either have PE or music every other day. That would bring us to our third period, where they have another period of special area classes. And this is also rotating. So for the full year, students do have art every other day. We have, each quarter their focus changes for art. So they have a marking period of drawing, a marking period of mixed media, a marking period of color and design, and then a marking period of visual and graphic design on the computer. So that art is a full year, but they are rotating through different focuses of art every other day. And our final special rotation, which would be the other, would go the other day, complementing the art, would be our STEM, media studies, health, and family and consumer science. Each of those classes also alternate, so you would have a quarter, students would have a quarter of each throughout the school year. So as we move through, and Dr. Salladino will show the schedule, because I know it sounds quite confusing, what I just explained, but the student, at the middle school, we really believe that exposing students to different special areas and or encore classes, so students get to see what they like, is really important at this level. And as they move forward in their education and get into high school, they get to choose their electives, because in some cases students know early on what they really like, and in other cases students maybe were exposed to something at the middle school that they really became passionate about, and then they wanted to explore it beyond the middle school. Core extension. So I've talked about core extension a little bit. I touched on it earlier on. It is one period a day, and it is, for sixth grade, students will eat lunch, sixth period, and this core extension backs up directly after lunch for your students next year. And this is really tailored and personalized for what students need. Students have academic workshop with one of their teachers. This gives them an opportunity to work on assignments, maybe get extra help from their science or social studies teacher, maybe retake a test, work on maybe a group project. It gives them some work time. Students during this time also have, the math and language arts teachers are also working with students in small groups on their team, providing extra help for math and language arts / reading. During this time, we also have students that have IEPs. They'll be working with their special education teachers. Students that are in our gifted program are also getting opportunity to have seminar during this time. So it is a nice period of the day where students are able to get the extra help and additional enrichment that they need. I did notice in the chat, somebody did ask the question if the student has an IEP, does that mean that they cannot participate in world language? Absolutely not. So the world language does not happen at the same time as the resource class or the extra help class. The resource class happens during the core extension period. The world language period really is, would be the same period where students would have either world language or reading. So there are some students with IEPs that need reading during that time, and there's some students with IEPs that take world language during that time. Just like there are students that, even if they don't have an IEP, maybe they just need an extra dose of world language. So it is a different part of the actual schedule. But the goal of core extension, I tend to repeat myself, it really is to customize and give students what they need so that they're not being pulled out of an actual class. It's an extra part of the day so that students, can really have their needs met and still be able to have our full menu of classes.
All right, so now I get to tell you a little bit about how all of this fits together. So we've kind of laid out the different courses, and we totally understand that from someone, particularly if this is, again, your first child coming through middle school, this sounds very confusing, and there's a lot. We spend a lot of time working with the kids, particularly in the beginning of the school year, really helping them to understand their schedule. All of those special area classes that Mrs. Britton was talking about, They don't all happen at one time. They have some of those classes for only a portion of the year. So at any one time, they're not juggling every single thing that we talked about there in our overall program. So here's a typical schedule where you can see how all of this is laid out. One of the things that the kids will see that's new is that not everyone has a particular thing like math, for instance, at the same time. In an elementary school, everybody's learning math during the same period of time. Well, here you might have math first period, you might have math ninth period. It just depends. And so that will be a change for the kids that they'll have to get used to. So you see here, we've got our 9-period day. For our 6th grade students, they have what we refer to as their core area classes: math, science, social studies, language arts, and either world language or reading. They have those during periods 1, 4, 5, 8, and 9. Periods 2 and 3, they have their special area classes. So they will make the transition from the 6th grade area of the building, and then they will come down to where our special area classes are for 2 periods back to back. It's minimizing their travel about the building. And so 2 periods a day for those special area classes like music and phys ed and art and STEM and things of that nature. For our 6th grade students, lunch is kind of smack dab there in the middle. They actually have what most of us would consider a normal lunchtime. They eat right at about 12 noon. And so their lunch is in there, period 6. Period 7 is that core extension period that Mrs. Britton was talking about, where kids are doing lots of different things depending upon their own individual needs. And they do finish out the day with 2 core area classes. And again, here it happens to be social studies period 8, language arts period 9. But for every student, that's going to look a little bit different because everyone doesn't have those courses at the same time. So that kind of gives you an idea of what a sample schedule looks like. The kids will not actually get their schedule until mid-August. And we'll talk a little bit more about that near the end of the presentation. So a lot of work, a lot of planning will be happening with the schedule, but kids will not actually get their official class schedule until mid-August. One of the really cool things that the kids tend to get excited about, and again, it's part of this transition to middle school, is we do issue them their own personal Chromebook that becomes an important part of the teaching and learning process here at Springton Lake. So the students will be issued a Chromebook in the beginning of the year. They will bring it back and forth to school every day. They will use it pretty much every class period during the day. There certainly may be times where it's not used as much, perhaps not in phys ed, but the kids are using their Chromebooks all the time. A lot of their work, assignments, and materials are accessed online using our learning management system, which we call Schoology. And we'll share more information about Schoology with you at the start of the school year. And so again, the Chromebook becomes a vital tool when kids are packing their book bag the night before and getting ready for school the next day. We always want to make sure that they've got a charged Chromebook ready to go in their backpack so that they are set up for success for the day. All right, next, Dr. Layton is going to talk a little bit about the role of the school counselor. I'll let Dr. Layton pick up from here.
All right, welcome again, everyone. I am speaking again on behalf of the school counseling department. Mrs. Gilroy is your student's counselor. She will be your child's counselor for the next 3 years, and I will be your child's counselor, I believe, next year and for the following school year. So the school counselor's role is to support, again, to be another point person for our students to feel supported throughout the course of their time here at Springton Lake. They will help with programming for their academic learning. If they have questions, or if you have questions about the schedule, the counselor will be the point person to support you throughout their process. As Dr. Kern kind of indicated earlier, this is a transition for our kids, right? And social and peer interactions is going to be a part of this experience, and the counselors can support them with that. If they just need to help model having conversations with their peers and with parents or family members, we can support in that capacity as well. The school counselor is also responsible. If your student has a 504, they will facilitate that annual meeting. Our counselors also support in facilitating parent conferences. We do have 2 parent conferences as we do in the elementary school, so we have the same time frame for that. But in addition, if you need a conference throughout the year, we will be more than happy to support in facilitating that. The counselors also supports as a liaison between the students, parents, teachers, and staff. And throughout the course of the year, we use a Naviance program where we talk about career exploration and different classroom lessons on peer conflict, relationship building. So throughout the course of the school year, your student will see their counselor in the classroom, in the hallway, in the cafeteria, and just throughout the course of the day. Advisory. Advisory is probably one of my favorite things about our school, and what makes our middle school unique. Again, as you can probably sense, building relationships are essential in middle school because we want our kids to feel comfortable, safe, and then more importantly, have point people throughout the course of their experience here at the middle school. So advisory is crucial in creating that family-like atmosphere. So each student is assigned an advisor in their 6th grade year, and they'll stay with that person from 6th to 8th grade. This is an opportunity, again, to build relationships, and we have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders together. Again, students will stay with that advisor from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, so they get to kind of mentor students as they progress throughout their career at Springton Lake, and then 8th grade students get to support our 6th graders. We normally meet on day 7 for 30 minutes, 1 day out of a cycle, and we have a variety of topics that we discuss during advisory. Sometimes students will come up and say, Dr. Layton, this is what's going on, and we'll develop a lesson based off of that. Sometimes we have game days just to relax. We also focus on a lot of social emotional learning, just helping students recognizing their feelings and advocating for themselves. Our 4 core values. Your students will probably be able to memorize this probably after their first week at Springton Lake. This is the foundation of our core belief at Springton Lake. We focus on students being ready, respectful, responsible, and resilient. In advisory, we go in detail of what does respect look like at Springton Lake, what does being ready, what does responsible and resilient. And we believe that if we empower our students with these skills and with this mindset, they'll have the resilience and grit to make it throughout Springton Lake, Pencrest, and hopefully in life. Again, these are our core values. This is what we use to guide and empower our students and to create a positive culture in our school. We reward our students for exhibiting such behavior. Every marking period, we have the prize table, and students are able to, I don't want to say cash in, but they're able to redeem some of their points for exhibiting positive behavior. So if I see a student holding a door for another student, that's the right thing to do. We want to acknowledge and encourage our students to be respectful and kind. So I may say, you know what, I'm going to give you some Spartan bucks. And again, this helps create a culture of caring and respect for one another. So we look forward to working with you and your students, and I believe we're ready for the next slide.
So one of the questions that sometimes we typically get, and it's one of those things that, perhaps when we think about our own time in middle school, that it might have been a tough time and that bullying might have been a part of our own experience. And so sometimes parents will ask me, is there a lot of bullying in our school? Is that something that we need to be worried about? I'm going to be very transparent with you tonight. I'm not going to tell you in this presentation that bullying doesn't happen during middle school. It is, it's something that we see in our society. We even see it among adults sometimes. So the kids are not immune from this. It is a time where, as Dr. Curran said earlier, there's a lot going on with social changes. Kids are making friendships. Kids are finding new friendships. But one of the reasons why we put this slide out here is sometimes what we discover in middle school is that we see this word overused, where bullying is sometimes used to describe anything that's happening that isn't positive. And so, we just want to put that out there that bullying may happen. There are going to be times where, despite all of our efforts to positively reinforce appropriate behavior, where we help kids make good decisions, form those relationships, where kids may not be nice to one another. Kids not being nice to one another is certainly not something that we like to see, and we certainly work to support those positive relationships. But that doesn't necessarily equate to kids being bullied. So we just put this out there because, again, we know it's sometimes a question that parents have. It's certainly not something that we've got a great environment here. We've got some awesome kids in our school. And again, Dr. Layton talked about some of the things that we do to really create that Spartan culture that we're after. But I just put this out there because, again, it's oftentimes a question that we get as kids are making the transition about bullying. All right, another change for kids and parents that is part of this transition to middle school is a more formal and traditional approach to grading. And so I wanted to just highlight a couple of things so that you know a little bit about not only what you can expect, but also a little bit about our philosophy. So yes, the first thing that you will see is that the grades are a little bit more traditional. Report cards are going to look a little bit more like perhaps when you think of a report card, what you think of and what comes to mind. So we do use letter grades, A, B, C, etc. Our teachers use a wide range of things to assess our students and for kids to show what they've learned and show what they know. Everything from, again, traditional things like tests and quizzes. Homework is a part of the middle school experience and a part of the transition, but perhaps not the way kids have kind of conjured it up in their minds. We're not a homework heavy, homework intensive operation here at Springton Lake. As well, there are a lot of hands-on projects, and we talked a little bit about lab activities in science. So lots of things go into a grade, lots of opportunities for kids to demonstrate what they've learned and what they can do from their classes. A nice feature that, again, it's part of this developmental transition, parents will begin to have access to their child's grades. The kids will have access to their own grades so that they can monitor and track progress throughout the marking period. Kids can keep tabs on maybe an assignment that they submitted and what the grade was, maybe an assignment that slipped through the cracks that they forgot to turn in. They'll be able to see that, use that as an opportunity to ask a question or gain clarification from their teacher. And likewise, parents can be monitoring that. So it's something that it's just information that's available right now at the elementary level. You have access to Home Access Center, but you see things like attendance in there, and that continues to be available to you. But now we layer on this next piece, and that is giving you access to the teacher's grade book so that you can see your child's progress in each of their classes. One of the things that we want to just point out, we are very much focused during 6th grade on making the transition. So a lot of times we'll get a question about honor roll. Do we have an honor roll? We do acknowledge kids for their outstanding academic achievements. We focus on the introduction of honor roll starting in 7th grade. We don't want to overwhelm our 6th graders. We don't want them to be so grade focused. We really want them to focus on their learning, focus on the transition. One of the things that you're going to find, and we share this in what we think is a nice user-friendly document at the beginning of the school year, we very much want the kids to focus on their learning and not be so grade focused. In fact, if kids are if a child does an assessment and maybe they fall short of the expectation, what matters to us is that we go back, we support them, we help them with what they didn't learn or understand the first time, and we give them another opportunity to show us what they've learned. And again, that matters more to us than points in a grade book and what a grade is. It really is about the student learning. Next slide, please. Dr. Layton, you're on mute.
Oh, and I was talking my heart away too. Our next slide is on activities. We want our kids to enjoy their experience here at Springton Lake. In September, about the third Friday in September, we have a club fair. And students are able to walk around or look at videos about the different opportunities that they have to participate. Now, because they're in sixth grade, they're not able to play because the PIAA, they're not allowed to play our sports, but we do offer it through intramurals. And Mr. Carr's normally over that. So each season we will have different opportunities ranging from yoga, weight room, basketball, sometimes flag football. That we offered that this year. Additionally, we have art club, we have a multicultural club, and students are able to participate in these activities, and they're normally after school. And if you look at our website, you can actually see our virtual club fair from this year. And we highly encourage and recommend that our students get involved. It's, again, a way and an opportunity to feel part of the Springton Lake community.
All right, so I want to just give you a little bit of an idea of what you can expect in terms of the transition process and what some of the touch points will be along the way. Obviously, tonight was an important first step, again, particularly for those of you who are experiencing Springton Lake for the very first time. So we hope that this meeting is helpful, provided you with an overview of some information. I know that there were some questions about how you'll be able to gain access to this presentation so that you can go back again. Again, we're going to do two things. One is to share a recording of tonight's event. So in case you wanted to hear something that we said again, you'll be able to listen to it. But if you also just want to be able to refer to the PowerPoint for the information without our commentary, we will make that available as well. So I will be sending a follow-up email by the end of the week so that you have access to these resources. The next thing that we're really excited about, and this is actually going to start tomorrow at our first school tomorrow, which I think is Media Elementary, we are holding virtual Q&A sessions with the students. So we planned tonight's presentation for you, the parents. We want to now connect with our students, our incoming 5th grade students. And normally we do this in person because some of our kids are still learning virtually and because it's difficult to bring kids together in larger groups in spaces. We're going to again do this year virtually. We did it virtually last year and it was actually really successful. So we are scheduling these times and we'll be making our rounds to each school where we're going to answer the questions that the students have. What's on their mind about the transition? Our goal in those sessions is to get them super excited. We hope that they're already excited about coming to middle school, and we hope that this will get them really pumped for what is next out there on the horizon. And so that's the next step in our transition. Typically, the next touch point actually for the kids occurs in May, and that would be a tour and visit here at Springton Lake. We're not going to be able to do that right now, and so that is not for this year in our schedule, but we are going to take that into consideration in the activities that we have planned for the summer, as well as for the things that we do with the kids at the start of the school year, knowing that they will not have had that May touch point by being able to come and visit with us here at Springton Lake. Summer activities are really helpful, they're really important, and quite honestly, they are a lot of fun. We do a couple of things over the summer. So in August, we will have a summer transition camp activity. We will offer this on 2 different days. We typically offer it during different weeks so that if you are on vacation during the one week, we hopefully can have your child participate during the other week. And it's a half-day session here at Springton Lake, an opportunity for kids to come together and to begin to meet some of the kids that they'll be in classes with, particularly those from other schools, both in the district and those that are joining us from outside of the district. It'll be an opportunity for them to meet some of the teachers and staff members that they're working with, This is where we'll probably do that activity where they're in the building, exploring the building. We typically do a scavenger hunt in the building so that they can begin to get their bearings and explore. For those that are going to be trying to master the school locker for the very first time, that's a part of our summer transition camp. And we also do some team building activities. So again, the kids get to begin to work together and to meet one another. And typically we conclude by enjoying lunch together. And so we will be publishing those dates in August. We hope to be doing that in the near future so that you can get that on your calendar. And again, it's the same program offered 2 different times. So the kids would come, if possible, to one of the 2 programs. A fun event that we've had for a few years, we were not able to have it this past summer, is our schedule release party. And so this is a block party type event where the main attraction, in addition to food, games, music, our mascot, the big attraction is early access to the class schedule. So this is when your child will find out what team they're on. They'll actually get a hard copy of their class schedule. They'll be able to see who they're in class with. You know, am I in the same math class? Are we in language arts together? Are we in art together? It is a fun night. And in previous years, we've had probably 75% of our families stop by, have a little fun, socialize, have something to eat, and the kids get to pick up their schedule. And again, that's typically in August, a couple of weeks before the start of the school year. And for those families that are not able to attend, we basically put the packet with the schedule in the mail to you the very next day. But this is kind of a nice tradition that has started, and we've done it 3 or 4 times, and it really is something that the kids look forward to. And so we are really hoping to be able to do our schedule release party this summer. The first day of school, I'll just point out to you, again this year, the board has approved the calendar for next year, which includes a pre-Labor Day start to the school year. So please keep that in mind as you make your summer vacation plans. The first day of school is August 30th. And you know, for our 6th grade students, those first days are so important to their transition. We really want to make sure that they are here. And you know, I am a firm believer in the importance of those family vacations. I treasure those times with my own family. But we really hope that you'll plan your summer vacation accordingly so that they are here and able to experience that first week of school as all of our 6th graders are getting their new bearings in the school. Please take a moment. I've sent it out 2 or 3 times already, that newsletter. There's a lot of information in there that was really customized for you as 5th grade parents as you're making that transition. We will continue to communicate with you as we get closer to the end of the school year, and then you can expect to hear from us multiple times over the summer. We really want you to know that we are excited about your kids coming to our school, that we are being thoughtful in all of our planning, and that you are now officially members of the Springton Lake Middle School community. We really want this transition to be smooth, positive, and exciting for everyone. Communication. So we really try to make sure that parents have all of the information that they need. Our weekly communication looks much like that communication that I shared with you already, that newsletter. We have one that comes out every Friday. And it is a tremendous source of information, and we hope that our families will refer to it throughout the week whenever there's a question about something that's going on at Springton Lake. We have started doing daily video announcements, and we share them as well each day so that parents know what's going on and what's happening at Springton Lake. Our website is a great source of information. I mentioned before about Schoology, that learning management system. The kids have access to it, and parents will also have access to it. And again, this is where you'll find assessments and resources and materials that our teachers are sharing with each of their classes. Home Access Center is where you will, again, access your child's grades. I talked a little bit about that on that grading slide a little bit ago, but that is another source of information. And again, we encourage parents to check HACC, and the kids will hear me often encourage them to check HACC. You can again expect phone communication from us, email communication. One of my favorite ways to get out the good news about what's happening at Springton Lake is our Twitter account. I think we have one of the original Twitter accounts in the Rose Tree Media School District. We think it's the best Twitter account in the Rose Tree Media School District. If you are a Twitter user, please give us a follow at Springton Lake MS. You'll always get fun content from us there. You'll always get early access to information there, and we would love to have you following us. So if you use Twitter, give us a follow. And we also have our Twitter feed on our website, so even if you don't use Twitter, you can still access it. And finally, your child as a young adolescent, we want them to be an active participant and to be a source of information as well. And so please ask them questions. We want them to begin to develop that independence. We certainly are not going to expect them to be these completely independent citizens on day one, but we want to grow and build that independence. We want them to have responsibility for their school experience. So whether it's signing up for an activity or sharing news about a spirit day, ask your child and really get them involved in this communication piece as well. This is really about them, and we are at each level, from elementary school to middle school to high school, and then post-high school, really working at each level to grow their independence and to get them to be a key part of what's going on in their education. All right, we've got one more slide before we take some questions, and then we'll circle back around and we will wrap up in just a little bit. I started off before at the beginning and told you, I think I made the statement, we have an outstanding middle school. We take a great deal of pride in Springton Lake Middle School and what we have to offer to the young adolescents in our school district. We have worked very, very hard to build an environment that really hits on the things that young adolescents need. From the academic and cognitive to that social emotional piece, really helping them to figure out what they're good at, what they're interested in, and where they're headed after middle school. I'm so proud to say that in 2017, for the very first time, we were recognized as a Pennsylvania school to watch. It is probably the highest designation bestowed upon middle schools in Pennsylvania as well as across the nation. In Pennsylvania, there are about 50-some middle schools that have that designation as a school to watch. We are one of them. And one of the big pieces about being a school to watch is having a commitment to continuous improvement. And so being recognized as a school to watch is not a destination. It is something that we have to keep striving for. Every 3 years, we go through a comprehensive redesignation process. And so after initially being designated in 2017, we went through that process in 2020, and we were redesignated for a second time as a Pennsylvania school to watch. It is a source of tremendous pride. We believe that it helps to set the bar very high for what we offer to our community. And again, we really feel like we have the best middle school anywhere, certainly the best middle school in Delaware County. So we're excited to be welcoming your kids. All right, so we are going to exit out of that PowerPoint. And this is part of one of the parts that I miss of us not being in person is that personal interaction. So Though I can't see you, wanted you to be able to see me and our participants here that may be fielding some of your questions. Mrs. Britton has been keeping an eye on what you have submitted. She is now going to moderate our discussion, and depending upon the question that may have been submitted, we will be taking turns answering some of those questions. So, Mrs. Britton.
The first question, and we did receive some about the orchestra program, and I believe I answered this during the presentation, that if a child with an IEP chooses orchestra, would they have the opportunity to switch to chorus or another music class? Really, when students pick their course for music, we really want students to pick the class that they are passionate about and they want to pursue for the school year. If they need accommodations in that course, then we're going to make sure that we can work with Mrs. Kaiser, the orchestra instructor, to make adaptations so that they could be able to do the course that they want to, and that they're able to continue with that instrument. We wouldn't want a student not to do an instrument and let the pacing or the anything getting in the way because of an accommodation. So we would make that happen. So if you have any additional questions about orchestra or band, please, if you email me, or you can email the band director, Mr. Reno, or the orchestra teacher, who is Mrs. Kaiser. They would be happy to answer any questions or start discussions about particular situations. The next question, when will the bus schedules be updated and sent out to parents? That does happen over the summer. Our head of transportation, Mrs. Kinsler, will be sending out updated transportation lists over the summer. They will be posted and made available to parents.
I saw a question, a couple of questions that talked about instruments and whether or not, in order to be a part of the band or the orchestra in 6th grade, whether or not you had to already be playing. So I wanted to just address that if I could. The program here at Springton Lake really is a continuation of the instrumental music instruction that the kids have started experiencing both in 4th and in 5th grade. And so the program in 6th grade really picks up where that instruction left off. And so most of the students that do participate in the band and the orchestra program do continue the instrument that they already have been playing. Right now, unfortunately, we don't have the opportunity for kids to start a brand new instrument. However, there are times where if there is an interest and parents are willing to work with their student to do a little bit of extra work over the summer, perhaps get some independent private instruction, a student that wants to either play a new instrument or begin playing an instrument to begin with could make that transition. But I just want to be sure that you know that our program in 6th grade is really set up to be a continuation of the program that the kids experience both in 4th and in 5th grade. Another question that I saw about the music program as well talked a little bit about switching music classes. I do think it's important to know that we will customize our master schedule and customize your child's course schedule based upon the music class that you select. And we are asking students and parents to submit that selection actually by the end of this week so that we can begin moving forward with that. We really do ask for you to, to think about it, to review the course options with your child. They were provided in the communication that I sent out to you because it is difficult to change music courses after a student has been in a class for a while. It really would cause a pretty significant disruption to their schedule. And so we do really ask for you to be thoughtful and intentional about what your child would like to learn and study when it comes to music.
We also had some questions. I saw a few about teaming, about the approach we take for teaming. Is it completely random? Do we look at gender, color? students, which elementary school they came from. I did see about 3 questions asking particularly about how we accomplish teaming.
Yeah, so I would say that it's the most thoughtful and intentional random process ever. And so it is very much a heterogeneous group of students, a blend of kids that are a variety of different levels. We make sure that they are balanced in every way that we possibly can. We try to rely a lot on information that we receive from our 5th grade colleagues as we start building those teams. The random part is, sometimes parents will ask the question, is there a high team where, we put all of our highest achieving students? And the answer to that is absolutely no. Every course is offered on every team. Everybody has the same opportunities on every team, and we really try to, thoughtfully distribute all of the kids evenly on those teams. The random part comes in that each year, doesn't matter what team you were on the year before, we kind of mix everybody up, and they end up, potentially on a different team in 7th grade and then in 8th grade. So just because you're together with a certain group of kids in 6th grade doesn't mean you're going to be with those same kids in 7th grade. So a lot of work goes into placing the kids so that we have a good blend on every team. But it's not it's not like it was perhaps when I was in middle school, where there was that high group and that low group. It is a very heterogeneous group of students on each team.
So a few questions about world language versus reading, which we talked about in the presentation. So if you do not have a world language class, it's because you have a reading class during that time period. I saw that a couple times come up. I believe Dr. Salladino answered most of the music questions. There was another music question added with concerns about how much instruction maybe students have received due to the COVID shutdown in 4th grade. And even now how many in-person lessons they've actually had. So the students that are transitioning from 5th to 6th grade are all they're all in the same they've all experienced the same amount of lessons, and they all were experiencing part of this shutdown. So just like we had to pivot and make adjustments with our curriculum as students came back to us in the fall, the music teachers are going to be able to do the same for music, knowing that students did not have the same experience they would have had if we would have been completely regular school year for the past year and a quarter. Also saw some questions about the 7-day cycle and how do we keep specials equal. Dr. Salladino, did you want to answer that, or I can jump in?
So I guess the one question that I realized when I saw that I didn't address day 7, because you might have noticed that was conspicuously absent in that mock schedule that I presented. Day 7 is in the cycle for the purpose of our music program. At the elementary school, the kids may be accustomed to coming in before school for rehearsals, if they are in the band or they are in the orchestra. All of our large group rehearsals for band, chorus, and orchestra all occur during the regular school day. And the way we achieve that is through the day 7. And so what we do, or what the kids do for their special area classes on day 7, is really a special rotation so that they can get those large group music rehearsals. Beyond that, I'm not going to get any further into the weeds. It gets a little bit confusing. The kids begin to understand. I think the most important thing for you as parents to know is that if your child is participating in the band or the orchestra, that all of those things that might be happening before the school day are now happening during the school day on a day 7.
Just to piggyback on that, somebody just asked a question that made me laugh. They asked if day 6 occurs on a Saturday. That's a very good question. So if the beginning of the school year starts on a Monday, Monday would be day 1. And then day 5 would be Friday, and then day 6 would be that following Monday, and then day 7 would be that Tuesday, and then we would start over again with day 1 the next Monday. So no, it does not go into the weekend.
I saw some questions, Mrs. Britton, that I'd like to address about the Chromebook.
Yep.
And I'm going to go through some things that I saw, but if there's anything that I missed, please chime in. So the Chromebook is the primary device that the kids are going to use during their middle school years. Our budget has not been approved for next year yet. That's coming in April and May. Our hope is that the kids will be receiving a new Chromebook at the start of the school year, and that will be their device through their middle school years. But that is, that is still to be determined, but that is our hope and our expectation. If the student has a device at home that they are more comfortable using, when they are at home, they may certainly continue to use that. I know that some of our students may have access to a Mac device that they're more comfortable with, and they certainly can use that at home. When they're in school during the day, they do need to use the school-issued Chromebook. That is the device that is able to connect to the internet here in school, and it really, the kids will get used to using it, and it really will become their device. And one of the things that we really try to help them to develop is that responsibility for that piece of personal equipment that has been issued to them. So, Mrs. Britton, those were a couple of things I saw, but you're monitoring the chat more closely. Were there other things about the Chromebook that I did not see?
No, I did not see. There were just a few ones about the Chromebook. See a few questions about seminar, how many days of the cycle seminar is happening. It is 2 days during the 7-day cycle. Students will be in seminar. Also saw some questions about our school counselor, if they are monitoring IEP progress. Students with IEPs will have a case manager in 6th grade. The school counselors are absolutely part of their team. And if students have needs that the school counselor needs to be involved with, they will work collaboratively with their team and their case manager, but each student with an IEP in 6th grade will have a case manager.
I saw a question, Mrs. Britton, that I'd like to address about world language. Mm-hmm. One of the questions asked, can the kids pick both Spanish and French as their course in 7th grade? And the answer, unfortunately, at the middle school is no. So the students get to experience, in most cases, if they begin that exploratory language, they get to experience both Spanish and French in 6th grade. And then we ask them to make a choice. And it is a 2-year choice, a 2-year commitment that they're making. They will take the same language, either Spanish or French, in both 7th grade and 8th grade. And so the 2 years in 7th and 8th grade are the equivalent to the first level, the first year of a high school world language course. And so it is really important, and our teachers do work with the kids to make sure that they are making a thoughtful decision of which language to take, because it is a 2-year commitment. Once the kids go to the high school, many of them do continue with the language that they started at middle school. Some of them will switch languages because there are some additional things offered at the high school that we are not able to offer here at the middle school. And some kids will even double up. And so if this is something that the kids see as a real passion and interest of theirs, they may not only try something new, but they may continue what they've already been studying. So it really depends on the student. There are lots of opportunities for world language that continue to expand when the kids get to high school. For their time at Springton Lake, though, they do need to pick one of the 2 languages. Now, the other piece that I'll just kind of comment on is that we want kids to start a world language when they're ready. And so many students begin a world language in 6th grade, but not everyone. Some kids need a little bit of extra support in reading in 6th grade, and we want to be sure that they have that. And so if those students are then ready in 7th grade, they can begin then. If the readiness is not until 8th grade, then the readiness is then. So we really meet kids where they are, and we work to make sure that they get what they need, and then they're able to move on to something like a world language class. We don't want anyone to feel like they've got to get on the world language train in 6th grade, otherwise the train will have left the station and you never can get on board down the road. That is not the case. And so we've been working with the 5th grade teachers to really learn about what our incoming students need and really matching them up with either a world language or a reading class. Those are the two options in that lane in the schedule, either world language or reading. A student that does not need additional support in reading, they must begin a world language. So it's almost like a required elective, which is a little contradictory, but that's the role that plays in our program. It really is a required elective if the kids are ready to begin that type of learning experience.
One item we did not touch on is our learning management system, Schoology. I saw a question in the chat where parents were asking if they would have access to daily homework assignments. So Dr. Salladino or Dr. Layton, do you want to talk a little bit about Schoology, where parents would be able to have access to their students' assignments?
I don't mind taking this one. So at the beginning of the school year, parents will receive their information from I want to say the district office or the school counselor, where you receive a username and password for HACC. It's normally the same from elementary school. And if you have another student, you can add that to the same account. For Schoology, you'll receive that as well. It's a username and password, and you will have access to view the information, but not the exact assignment. So you'll be able to review the directions, but the actual Google Doc, your student would have to actually log in so that you can view the template that they actually have to type on. Some teachers, HACC is the place where you need to access the grades and access what's actually going to show up on the report card, but Schoology is where you can access, again, the assignments and the materials for each course.
Thank you. I know Dr. Salladino did talk about the Chromebooks. I saw some additional questions added about the Chromebooks. As Dr. Salladino had already touched on, the students do have the option at home to access through their own personal device, but also asking if they would have the same device throughout middle school. So we will, for the technology department, will be issuing new devices to the students at the beginning of the school year. Particular question about if, how old the model will be. I don't think that's even, I don't know the answer to that. Dr. Salladino, do you know the answer to I don't know which model they will be receiving. The swim program, there's a question about our swimming program.
Do you want me to take that one, Mrs. Britton?
That one, yep.
Okay, so we have one of the best PE programs anywhere. And our phys ed teachers, I think, would be upset if I didn't say that to you. The kids have such a diverse menu of things to get involved in. We have tremendous facilities here, and we have a tremendous property and campus where we're able to do lots of things. So our kids are involved. They have traditional things that might be normally part of a phys ed program, but they have access to our fitness room with equipment that you might see in your gym. We take the benefit of the campus, and our kids mountain bike. We have a rock climbing wall here at Springton Lake, but we also have a pool. And though we are not using it this year because our phys ed program doesn't look the same during our COVID year, kids are not changing for PE this year. In a typical year, swimming is a part of the rotation. And so the kids would rotate through the swimming program 3 or 4 times during the school year. And they would rotate through for a series of 6 classes. And so one of the things that I do say sometimes to our incoming parents is to just be mindful that at some point during the year, your child is going to need a bathing suit. And they're going to need a bathing suit that fits. And they're going to need a bathing suit that you may need to get for them at a time that stores are not necessarily selling bathing suits. And so think about that in your own planning. So again, in a typical year, kids will rotate through the pool. Some of our 6th graders may swim in October. Some of them may not swim for the first time until December. So you just want to be mindful of that as you plan. And one of the things I'll also say is that, like a lot of other things in our school, it is customized and tailored to the needs of our kids. So we work with the kids and customize the instruction, whether they are experienced swimmers who participate on a swim team, or kids that are learning to become water safe and are, not comfortable in the pool. And so we really do customize it so that everybody gets what they need, and that they are able to, progress and develop from wherever they are. So it's something that, we want you to know that we take that into consideration when we plan those activities.
Can I add to that, Dr. Sal? So one of the parents had a question about the supply list. And because, parents are looking for swim equipment, supply list, that's normally sent out when we do the schedule release party. And then we normally put it on the website sometime in August as well.
Yes, as I mentioned, families, this is not going to be certainly the last time that you hear from us. We communicate throughout as we get to the end of the school year, and then in the early parts of the summer. So everything from a tentative supply list so that you can be planning. We will also make those dates available to you as soon as we have them nailed down. We get you lots of information so that you can plan accordingly. So again, expect to hear from us. The primary way that I'm going to be communicating is via email. I did see a question. Unfortunately, our emails are set to automatically generate from those students that are enrolled. And so I don't have necessarily a means to add a parent to our email list. That's automatically generated through our student information system. And so if you know that your child is going to be enrolling at Springton Lake, one of the things that I would suggest is to formally enroll them sooner rather than later. And then that will be on our radar. And our guidance office would typically take the lead on sending out information to those families that we know that they're going to be coming, and we know that they are not automatically getting our emailed communication. So definitely encourage that if you know your child is going to be attending Springton Lake and they're not coming from a Rose Tree Media school. All right, so Mrs. Britton, I think that looking at the time, it is about 8:30, and I'd like to kind of honor everyone's time and wrap up at this point.
To add the link for parents to pick their child's music class into the chat. So I'm going to add that link as you're closing off in case people did not do that because it is due this week. I'm going to add that link.
All right, and the link that Mrs. Britton is sharing, many of you, we had about 90 some families already complete the music selection. So for those of you that already did, we really appreciate that, and there's no additional action needed from you. If you know that you have not completed that music selection, please take a few moments with your child to review the course options. They're laid out in the information that we provided, and to make a selection so that we can begin that planning part. So first of all, I want to thank you, parents, for being here with us tonight, for carving out some time to spend with us. I'd also like to thank our panel. I know that some of the folks were introduced at the beginning, and just by the way it kind of shaped up, there weren't any specific questions for them, but I do appreciate everyone being a part of this tonight. Though we could not be in person and formally meet you, we hope that you found tonight's presentation helpful, informative. We hope that you have a sense of what middle school will be about, but probably most importantly, and this is where sometimes I think we lose a little by not being in person. For me personally, my main goal tonight was for you to get to meet us, to hear a little bit from us, and to feel like that your child was going to be cared for, taken care of, and welcomed to the Springton Lake community. That's really what we want this transition to be about. We want to get them excited about middle school. We want them to be looking forward to middle school, and we want you to know that we are going to take care of them, that we are going to embrace them, that we are going to make them feel a part of this community. We're going to look after them. We feel so passionately about working with young adolescents. It's what we do. It's what we love. It is definitely, no 2 days are the same. The kids are fun, they're quirky, they're unpredictable, they're curious, and we love every part of that. So we want you to hopefully walk away having that sense about our team and about our school. On a personal note, I can tell you that this is very personal to me. I live in the community. I am a part of the Rose Tree Media community. My own 2 boys have gone through Springton Lake during the time that I've been principal. And every decision that I make as the leader of our school is really the kind of decision that I would want for my own kids. And for 6 years, it was the decision that I would want for my own 2 boys. So it's that personal to us. And so again, we're going to take care of them, and we want you to feel excited about sending them to us. So thank you so much for spending some time with us this evening. Again, you can look for follow-up communication from me probably near the end of the week, where we will make these resources available to you so that you can go back and review them and hopefully have the different information and resources that you need. Thanks so much. Have a great rest of the evening, and we look forward to seeing you and meeting you soon. Thank you.
Have a good night.